China is still outperforming the US with their high-speed railways. When we talk about infrastructure, most people might assume we're referring to the gaping chasm in high-speed rail development between China and the United States. China boasts an impressive 22,000 miles of high-speed rail tracks, while the US has barely scratched the surface. But here's the twist. High-speed rail might not be the game-changer we think it is. You see, high-speed rail is kind of like an outdated tech gadget. It's slower than taking a plane, less convenient than driving, and far more expensive than both. And for those who see it as an eco-friendly solution, here's a reality check. The process of building high-speed rail actually churns out thousands of tons of greenhouse gases per mile, and operational savings rarely make up for this environmental cost. In fact, China's ambitious high-speed rail network led its state railway company into a whopping $850 billion debt. This situation is so unsustainable that China has put the brakes on expanding these rail lines. Surprisingly, driving and air travel are surging ahead in China, outpacing rail travel by a significant margin. Now, let's focus on the real infrastructure gap. It's in our freeways. China started building its freeway network in 1998, and by the end of 2019 it had a staggering 93,000 miles of them. In contrast, the US had constructed fewer, just under 67,000 miles. What's more, China is churning out about 4,000 new freeway miles each year, while the US is lagging behind at fewer than 800 miles annually. Here's the significance. Freeways in the US are incredibly busy, carrying the average American almost 4,000 miles in 2019. Many are jam-packed for hours during the day. On the flip side, Amtrak, the passenger rail service, managed to ferry the average American just 19 miles in 2019, and it wasn't even able to fill half of its seats. The rising demand for freeway driving has far outstripped the expansion of freeway miles. This mismatch has a hefty price tag. Traffic congestion costs American commuters a staggering $166 billion a year, not to mention the additional expenses for shippers. China and the US have similar land areas and roughly the same number of vehicles. However, China's zeal in expanding its freeway network reflects a fundamental insight that US political leaders seem to have overlooked. Highways are catalysts for economic growth. Freeways hold multiple advantages over high-speed rail. They can be self-sustaining, with user fees like gasoline taxes covering their costs. In contrast, many of China's high-speed rail lines are financially bleeding. Moreover, US freeways seamlessly connect with a vast network of other roads, allowing people to reach their final destinations without switching vehicles. On the contrary, a high-speed rail system can be a disjointed puzzle with limited connectivity. Another feather in the freeway's cap is its ability to serve both passengers and freight. In the US, freeways carry over a quarter of all passenger miles and ton miles of freight. High-speed rail, even if constructed on a massive scale, would likely only carry about 2% of passengers and zero freight. The COVID-19 pandemic reminded us of the importance of resilience. Motor vehicles and highways have proven to be the most resilient mode of transportation. Highways continue to operate regardless of funding availability, while Amtrak needed hefty subsidies to keep running during the pandemic. The growing chasm between China and the US in terms of freeway development can be attributed to an anti-highway lobby that painted a rather inaccurate picture of personal mobility. They'd have us believe that more roads are a bad idea because people will use them. Instead, they advocate for spending billions on light rail and high-speed rail, which would primarily cater to economic elites. This stance is not only illogical but also socially unjust. Studies have shown that car ownership, especially among low-income households, can be a ticket out of poverty. On the other hand, congestion costs predominantly affect the working class, whose flexibility in terms of hours and job locations is limited compared to many middle-class workers. The US shouldn't embark on freeway construction merely because China has more. The focus should be on building them where they can pay for themselves. Why? Because freeways significantly contribute to economic productivity, poverty reduction, and surprisingly, can be as environmentally friendly as any other passenger technology. Do you guys agree with the sentiment? Let us know in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting railway updates.